It is the 12th of the 9th, 2025. The time is 19 minutes past 8. It's the Friday show. As always, this is an F1 centric conversations, modes of discourse where you pull at threads just as much as I do. On the docket today, it's Maximilian Verstappen. Do you know what I mean? It's boring for me to Max glaze all the time. So I would defer to the experts over at the Chris Harris on Cars podcast. So to Umanch, John K, F1 boy, we'll talk about Maximilian Verstappen and his automotive pugilistic festivities over the course of the next 48 hours. It's Nordschleife, it's GT4, it's techier than techie things. We'll go through all the nuts and bolts, the hoops through which Max will need to jump. It's chaos. I'm telling you, it is proper chaos. But in the first instance, I want to play something. Listen, Max glazed, you know what I mean? I'm bored. I feel like Max is sucking out all of the sporting endeavour pot excellence light out of the F1 space for now. So it'd be almost selfish of me to hog the Maximilian Verstappen glaze. This Friday night show, I'm going to defer to some other bod, some other experts. Manish Pandey, executive producer of the Senna documentary, when asked to summarise the Italian Grand Prix, here's what that fella had to say. Roll the clip.
Verstappen, what a driver, eh? What a driver. This was a little bit of a McLaren bogey circuit. I should say that because they tend to be very good where you've got good downforce, a little bit of a compromise between sort of speed and good downforce. So this is a zero downforce circuit, not even a low downforce circuit. And I saw a picture of Max Verstappen's rear wing, and they already had a low downforce rear wing. Imagine a monster biting a chunk out of the back of a rear wing. That's what it looked like. But the reason why I say Max Verstappen is he had a feel for this. The engineers were taking him, including Miki's, a slightly different way. And he said, no, trim it. I want the ultra trimmed light wing and put a little bit more downforce on the front wing. If the front bites, I will control the car for all 60 laps. And he did 57 laps. I mean, to drive that well, I've seen one drive at Monza. You won't be surprised. It was Ayrton Senna.
Alan Prost.
It was Ayrton Senna in 1992, and he beat the Williams doing a Max Verstappen. He just trimmed the car, concentrated, got every single braking point right, every single turn end point right. And it was a sublime drive. I thought actually Max's pole position was absolutely sublime as well.
Never.
Suffice to say, sublime is the word of the day when characterising what we saw from Max at the Italian Grand Prix. Yet another occasion that dude, that we have to recognise that dude was the difference maker, takes off all the downforce out of the wing, yet still manages to keep with a God tier MCL39 and its double brake and its God tier aerodynamic efficiency through the medium speed Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. So too, the Oscar chicane. What are we doing, Kit? This makes no sense. But again, I promise you guys that I won't glaze here. I don't want to hog the Maximilian Verstappen glaze ball. Manish Pandey continues.
Max's pole position was absolutely sublime as well.
Never.
When that boy wants to turn it on, he's an acrobat. He's a gymnast. He's an astronaut. He's just so far the best driver compared to everyone else. And I love Lando. I love Oscar. Maybe Oscar's curve is growing and growing, and we'll see what Hadjar will be. But my God, just when Max is in a car at his best, I love it. Max.
Suffice to say then, per Manish Pandey this time, not your boy Cameron CC, that Maximilian Verstappen is operating on a different level from the other 19 as at the time of writing. Manish Pandey saying that, comparing him to rarefied air. Manish is hero, the best to ever do it. Some say Ayrton Senna, 1992 settings, Peter Prost. I can't glaze. I don't want to hog the Max Verstappen glaze ball. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you got to give it to other people, Clarted. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to do it. It would be boring, no monotonous, if every single time I come over here and it's me talking about Maximilian Verstappen. The naysayers said about me that this was monopoly, that Cameron keeps talking about Maximilian Verstappen ad infinitum, in perpetuity, without compunction, and that tells you all you need to know about his objectivity or lack thereof. So I just pass the ball to those who know more about the sport than you and I, who are more acutely connected to the motorsport world. That dude talking is the executive producer of the Senna film. He could tell you the ins and outs of Senna's life in a way that not too many people in F1 history could, and that's him there comparing Maximilian Verstappen, four-time champion, to his hero Ayrton Senna, 1992 Italian Grand Prix similar. It's techie, this. And Chris Harris, the legend of motorsport journalism, or motoring journalism, excuse me, he expounds upon the Max Verstappen circumstance. And again, I'm not going to hog the Max Verstappen glazed ball today. I will pass it to those who are infinitely closer to the F1 circumstance than I. Continue.
I agree with Manish. There's a paradox about Monza. The paradox is this: it's perceived as being the sort of skillless circuit because it's all straights. The irony is, Max proved it's arguably the most skillful circuit. It's the one
Absolutely.
place where a driver can really make a difference in the package. You can trim a car back and go, do you know what? I'll allow my testicles to be much bigger than everyone else's. And Max did something that no other driver can do. So I agree, amazing.
Let me say this. Let me expound upon Chris Harris. Get past me the Max Verstappen glazed ball for just a couple of seconds, because there's something upon which I would like to expound. It's not that Max Verstappen could take off downforce out of the rear wing and nail himself a pole up. That in and of itself against the McLaren, the God TMCL 39 aerodynamic efficiency and all, is worthy of note. But for me, the headline is this: when Lando Norris was making mistakes coming out of Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2 in a car in which even performance is repeatable, the upper echelons of performance, most accessible of all of those 10 cars on the grid, Lando was making mistakes, OJP couldn't get it together, and Max Verstappen in a more temperamental car with a more temperamental setup made, as near as makes no difference, 0 mistakes. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why you have Franz Tost and Toto Wolff each saying that this dude is built different. Toto will now kill to get himself a signature of Maximilian Verstappen, now subverting in real time and undermining the confidence of Kimi Antonelli and King George Russell. We've always said that Toto will drop kick in the face a King George Russell if it means that he could get a whiff of the signature of Maximilian Verstappen. And that's no, I mean, you've got to take that to the bank now. Never more has that been true than today. And by the way, have you seen this? This gets techie, chat. Listen, what's going on, Jason? Neil just joined. Are we having enough Max glazing, sir? I can't hug the Max Verstappen glazing ball, Neil. Do you know what I mean? I've got to give it to other people. They've got other people out. Well, welcome, Damon. We've been expecting you. Nico Rosberg now. Chris Harris, Manish Pandey. Like, well, come and join the club. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we're talking Max glazing, then like get yourself a drink, chaps. We've been expecting you for many years now. 2016 was the first time that we started talking about Maximilian Verstappen this way. His coming out party at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Come on in, chaps. Do you know what I mean? Now that you don't want to be abbots of unreason, no longer can you avert your gaze from the light of truth, objectivity to welcome in. Come one, come all. Grab yourself a beverage. Get your feet, put some slippers on. Get your feet underneath the table. Do you know what I mean? Oh, and by the way, have you seen this, chat? This is chaos. Absolute chaos. I feel for my guy Lewis Hamilton at the moment. He cannot catch a break. When it rains, it pours, with a view to big up himself. And I missed this. This is on me. Lack of due diligence from Cameron. In the lead up to the Italian Grand Prix, your boy Sir Lewis Hamilton posted this to ask perplexity. I missed it. What's the fastest lap at Monza? Knowing all the while that his was the fastest lap ever at Monza on a 118.8. If I recall, Lewis Hamilton wasn't a bad peddler. W11 settings, do you know what I mean? Unbeatable as near as makes no difference. The response, of course, from Ask Perplexity is as follows. Bottom right of your screen, the fastest official lap at Monza in F1 is a 1:18.887 set by Sir Lewis in qualifying for the 2020 Italian Grand Prix, which is also the record for the fastest average lap speed in F1 history. He weren't bad, this Lewis Hamilton fella. Let me give him some props, him some flowers. In that W11, I mean, nobody could get close. 2021, in 2020 even, at the peak of his not insubstantial powers. So Lewis Hamilton is in a trough, going through something of a crisis of confidence, some would say. What he's been all his life in F1 is a god-tier peddler, raw speed, ridiculous levels of... Nobody could get close to him when he'd had his Weetabix from circa 2008 all the way through 2021. And then along came somebody called Maximilian Verstappen and changed the game. But between those times, you have to give Sir Lewis his flowers. Now he's struggling. Of course, it's Scuderia Ferrari. The SF25 doesn't work for him. The rigidity at the rear isn't there as he wants. It doesn't give him the confidence to take high minimum speeds through high speed turns. That's where you will gain your pace in F1 as at 2025. And Lewis doesn't have it. Of course, there are other things that he's got to acclimatise to. You know about the brakes already. It was carbon industry. It is now Brembo discs and pads. And that's a different braking feel. And what if not for progressive braking feel did Lewis Hamilton extract the best lap time out of himself and the car? Brakes, aggressive brake, last of the late breaker. So if he doesn't have confidence in that, what do you expect him to do? He's not going to be Lewis Hamilton that you've come to know and love, not the Lewis Hamilton of 2020. Same thing as far as the bloody suspension, same thing as far as the engine torque curve. Everything is brand new. Everything is different, and Lewis Hamilton is still, as in real time, getting used to these bits and bobs. That being said, fair play to Lewis Hamilton for giving himself some confidence, you know what I mean? Remembering, recalling the good times, revisiting highs, automotive pugilism of the highest order. It was a 118.9 rounded, and then guess what happened over the course of the Italian Grand Prix weekend? Maximilian Verstappen happened, 118.792, new track record in qualifying. Oh, and by the way, if that's not enough, see, this is the response to the Max Verstappen fans. Do you know what I mean? Who's got the lap record? Sir Lewis Hamilton asked. Well, that was an overtone window, fleeting. Now it belongs to Maximilian Verstappen, and then you get this. Come to learn that it's not only the 118.792, it's the average speed around the track. The fastest race in F1 history was what we saw. That, ladies and gentlemen, is chaos. Oh, and by the way, could McLaren drop any one of these drivers for Matt Benzi? Listen, go on, let's talk about it. There's a lot of chatter about Charles Leclerc potentially not being happy with Ferrari. There's a lot of chatter, of course, about Max Verstappen and where he might end up in 2027. Favourites, as at the time of writing, of course, a Mercedes. Why? Because it's 2014 all over again and split turbo hybrid era. Supposing they do what they did in 2014 and produce the market leading power unit, electric 50%, ICE 50%. Petronas are said to be creating some god-tier sustainable fuel for Mercedes too. There is a feeling in Middle England that the boys from Brackley and Brixworth, that they have the upper hand. If indeed they do in 2026, where do you think Max Verstappen's going to go? Daniel Z? I think he has the pick of the litter now by dint of the performances. You heard Toto Wolff saying that one driver made everybody else look stupid, that we didn't have a good drive, not George nor Kimi Antonelli. You've seen the pictures, chat. Max Verstappen on a yacht with Toto Wolff. Toto will drop kick either one of his charges in Antonelli or King George Russell if it meant getting a whiff of the signature of this chap, Maximilian Verstappen, the difference maker. Oh, and by the way, over the course of this weekend, it's going to get techier than techie things at F1. Like, please, John, you cracking me up. It's going to get techier than techie things for Mr. Verstappen. I'd love to talk about something else, but the world, the weird and wacky world that is F1, ticker NASDAQ, isn't giving us anything else other than Maximilian. That's why I keep saying that Max feels like he's sucking all of the attention dollars out of the F1 room. Here's what's going on. You guys know already that Max Verstappen is due to be at the Nordschleife and Nürburgring settings. Again, all the other drivers are taking a much needed break, right? Rest, spending time with loved ones, friends and family. Max Verstappen has a brand new baby in the household. And what's he doing this weekend? He's at the Nordschleife competing in GT4. You will recall, for context, he competed or did a couple laps under the pseudonym Franz Hermann. Now, I think that was with a view to make this happen. He doesn't do anything by accident, does Max. Now he's competing proper. And there are stories about it. Their yachts just happen to be in the same place. Behave yourself, Neil. Same place. said with tongue very firmly in cheek. Safak, are you going this weekend? You're going to have to keep me updated, Safak, because I wouldn't mind going myself. Said to be 50,000 are going to be in attendance. This is a big deal now. How many do you think would attend this event but for Maximilian Verstappen, aka Franz Hermann's presence? Nobody would go to that thing. Nils, what even is that? NLS, not Nürburgring. I don't even understand the terminology nor the acronyms, which we will go through in short order, I promise. 50,000 as a precaution. 2 additional grandstands and viewing areas have been open. And nobody's not going to tell me on the back of this, by dint of the 50,000, that Maximilian Verstappen's not a game changer. You'll recall, nobody really spoke to this point. Chris Harris mentioned it, but I'm going to speak to it now. Max Verstappen, again, nobody's won more Italian Grand Prix than him over the last 3 or 4 years. He's nailed Imola as near as makes no difference every single bloody Grand Prix. And then when they got to Monza, he nails it over there. So when he gets on the podium, of course, the Tifosi are looking at him like he's Michael Schumacher. They want Max to come over there and drive the red car with the yellow badge and black prancing horse. Hence the glowing, very warm reception. The Tifosi welcomed Max Verstappen as a winner in perpetuity now, like he was one of their own. So nobody's going to come on here and tell me that chap's not a game changer. You see that this dude is the cash cow. Mention no names. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Wherever this dude goes, he's transforming motorsport, bringing attention, dollars, and that's why everyone needs to keep him. You think they're lenient sometimes with Max Verstappen and the penalties. This is why. Because if he leaves and goes to bloody WEC after Sir Lewis Hamilton retires, nobody will watch Formula One is the point. It's techier than techie things. Oh, and by the way, here's a couple of shots of his GT4 getting rolled out. Go for the details, I'm sure. It's a big Sport magazine article. Live stream tomorrow. We'll talk about it. That's what do we know? So it's a different circuit, Benzi. Do you know what I mean? Monza was always going to be, to be fair, once they fixed the car, Monza was always going to be favourite. To be honest, but yet and still, I thought that McLaren were going to. Oh, and by the way, here's a couple of shots of Max Verstappen turning up. Fanfare settings, do you know what I mean? Heroes welcome settings. Look at all those people around him that wouldn't otherwise get close to Max Verstappen. A proper racing man's racer. See him in the car proper. Gonna get techie, this, I'm telling you. Only to Ferrari if he can build. Does he go to Ferrari? You can't hear me. What's going on there? GJ, can everybody? Oh, you can't hear me. Can you hear me now? I hope you can hear me now. Let me know in the chat. Engine is drowning me out. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Appreciate you, GJ. I needed to play I had to play the audio. What's his name this time? He's obliged, apparently, per the rules and regs, to compete under the name Maximilian Verstappen. No longer is there pseudonyms at play. So go on then. I want to show you guys this. This is important. We'll go through this article because there are a couple apologies here. I'm a numpty. I'm a proper numpty. Go on, I want to go through this article with you. Motorsport magazine, for the avoidance of doubt, to set context. All F1 publications are created equally, but some are created more equal than others. Motorsport magazine is one of the god-tieriest ones, and if there's any narrative you can take to the bank, it's these guys. They nail it. They bat 1,000. Integrity is front and centre, close to their heart. Matt Bishop, friend of the channel, writes for this website come publication. Here's what you need to know, chat. I'll read it out together because it's important. I don't want to miss any details. How to watch Max Verstappen race at the Nürburgring this weekend. Maximilian Verstappen is set to race a Porsche Cayman at the Nürburgring this weekend. Here's how to watch his Nordschleife debut and his novice training. Well, that's not the entire story, but we'll get to it per Dominic Tobin. You guys can see this. Max Verstappen is expected to make his Nürburgring race debut this weekend, and you can watch every moment via a live stream. Techie things. Motorsport will be carrying live coverage from 10:30 British summertime on Saturday ahead, 10:30 a.m. by the way, British summertime, ahead of the start of the 4-hour race at 11 a.m. British summertime. So again, get your subscriptions onto Motorsport. I'll post a link in the description, by the way. The event is the 8th round of the Nürburgring Endurance Championship. Nürburgring, whatever that says, I cannot pronounce it. And as Verstappen hasn't competed at the 12.944 mile Nordschleife before, but I mean, he didn't compete, but he was driving around there and setting that record. So what are we doing here? Levels of bureaucracy, any? Do we need to cut through some red tape to get Max Verstappen going around here this weekend? Well, apparently so. The 4-time champion, continues the article, is seen as a novice in the eyes of the organiser. What are we doing? If I were Max Verstappen, I'd just be like, you know what, I'm 4-time champion, Jack. What are we doing here? It's nonsense. I'm bringing all these eyes and attention dollars, and now I've got to jump for these rules and regs. But rules are rules. The diehards that make a living off of going around the Nordschleife will argue that, do you know what I mean? Everybody must comply. There are no exceptions. Even if you are a 4-time champion, I would argue that this is absolute motorsport baloney. They're lucky that Max Verstappen is there bringing all these eyes and attention dollars to this bloody Nordschleife weekend. Like, do you know what I mean? What are they talking about? Article continues, that's despite reportedly breaking the GT3 lap record on the circuit earlier this year when he took part in a test session under the pseudonym Fransom. So you mean to tell me that you're going to kick off this geezer in GT4s, a Cayman, when he's already set the GT3 lap record? Of course, there is such a thing as red tape in the weird and wacky world of motorsports. The article continues, Verstappen is therefore having to earn the permits that will allow him to race the most powerful GT3 cars. So he's already been, that's the pictures that we've just shown you. These are these ones here. So he's in there today getting all of that. This is him going around and making sure he's ticking the requisite boxes to enable him to jump in the GT4 Saturday and Sunday. The first stage on Friday requires him to undertake an e-learning course. What? Yeah, why not? Max Verstappen, 4-time champion, one of the goatiest to have ever goated, to ever get behind the steering wheel of an F1 car, an e-learning course. Juxtaposition, any? Does this make sense? Care? What? I don't understand what's going on. An e-learning course that covers the specific rules for racing on the Nordschleife before he follows an instructor. Yes, Nordschleife. Before he follows an instructor on the track in a series of laps designed to show him the best racing lines to take. What are we doing here? Listen, this is ridiculous. I have no words. This is nonsense. This is laughable. Max Verstappen, I understand there are rules and there are rules, and every man and their dog must ultimately comply. But this is nonsense. You're going to show Max Verstappen the lines that he needs to take around the Nordschleife. Okay, all right. Do you want to teach your grandma how to suck eggs next? What are we doing here? If I were Max Verstappen, I wouldn't have time for this. This is a waste of time. These are minutes that I could be spending with my newborn child. You know what I mean? Verstappen will then have to do a further series of laps in a test session before being awarded his Permit B licence. That will allow him to race the following day. And now here's where it gets techie. Why Verstappen will be driving a restricted car. There's a lot of chatter about this, and the guys and girls over Reddit have been quick to refute this claim. I want to show you both sides of the coin so that we understand the details and the nuance and the wrinkles of the story. Motorsport magazine continues, this second tier permit will allow him to compete in lower powered machines weighing a minimum of 4.2 kilogram per horsepower produced. As such, the Porsche Cayman is expected to drive for Line Speed GP will have to be restricted in standard spec. It weighs 3.1 kilograms per horsepower, so the required power reduction means that it's unlikely the F1 champion will even be in contention for class victory. What are they doing here? This ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, is chaos. You mean to tell me, if Motorsport Magazine are correct here, you mean to tell me that you're going to give Max Verstappen a car that he won't be able to win in? What do you think the 50,000 people are rocking up for? What do you think the 50,000 are rocking up to see, if not to see Maximilian Verstappen, the quickest driver currently on the F1 grid, not Nordschleife, not GT3, not GT4, the upper echelons of motorsport. They're looking to see him put down a performance in a car capable of winning a bloody race. And you mean to tell me it's going to be restricted? Go on then. Let's keep reading. Verstappen needs 2 results as a Permit B holder to earn a top-tier Permit A, and could achieve this on Saturday because he'll be sharing his car with at least one other driver. When he hands over the wheel, he will be allowed to race the second Cayman entered by Linesbit. Okay, so this is automotive tax avoidance, therefore. I mean, sort it out, man. This is ridiculous. Absolute joke. As long as he completes at least 14 laps in total and 20% of the race distance in each car, he'll be classified twice. That could see him move up to the GT3 class. Right now we are talking, chat. This is what the people are paying money to see. That could, by the way, pertinent word there, could see Max move up to the GT3 class for the following day, as the weekend is a double header and there's a second 4-hour race on Sunday. Can you imagine a world where Max Verstappen turns up to do Nordschleife for Saturday and Sunday, and because of some foolishness, some red tape of the automotive pugilistic variety, only races on Saturday even? What are we doing here? There's likely to be a longer term goal behind it all, writes Motorsport Magazine. This is where it gets techie. Verstappen has previously talked about one day racing at Nürburgring, 24 hours, and Le Mans hours. This weekend can be seen as the first stage in achieving these goals. Oh, the humanity. What do you think about this, chat? I think this is a pretty... I'm going to be honest with you. I absolutely love this story. I love the fact that Mr. Verstappen is a racing man's racer. He just wants to race. Forget the rest. He just wants to race. Never ever will you see him turning up to the bloody premiere of the F1 movie. And that's a departure from the other 18 who went. Do you know what I mean? It's a breath of fresh air, and I think that's why so many people are drawn to the enigma that is Maximilian Verstappen. Keeps himself to himself and just wants to race cars. All of the other faff and the glitz and glamour that comes with F1 fare is of zero interest to this fella. Oh, and by the way, this is important, chat, because the guys and girls of Reddit are talking about it. This is important. We'll read this out together. Talking about please be respectful. So the legend that is Caution Clock 20 writes, there are several publications, among which motorsport.com, claiming that Max Verstappen won't be able to win the GT4 class in the Nürburgring Langstreckenserie tomorrow because his Porsche is detuned. Oof. That's what Motorsport Magazine have just said, but I trust them over Reddit. I have to be honest. First, the NLS doesn't have a GT4 class. The GT4 spec cars are split up into a bunch of different categories, like SP8T for turbocharged GT4 cars with specifically designed parts, i.e. Bilstein suspension on Jimmy Broadbent's car, and SP10 for SRO homologated GT4. SRO is the license holder of GT4. This caution clock chap or guy or girl seems to know what they're talking about. However, they continue. Verstappen's Porsche is entered in the Cup 3 class, which is separate class for detuned Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 RS Club Sport cars. He's not competing against other GT4 cars. If his Porsche were not detuned, it wouldn't be a Permit B car. And to get his Permit A GT3 license, he has to drive a Permit B car. But there you go then. Maybe it's not detuned. Person seems to know what they're talking about. Interesting. Due to articles like motorsport.com wrote, there have been several hate comments directed towards the NLS organisers because Verstappen fans think his Porsche is nerfed to slow him down and what's not, and it's unfair. Please be respectful and do your research. Oh, the humanity. Apparently there is misinformation out there in the weird and mucky world that is motorsport. I mean, you wouldn't expect any difference at this point. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't be motorsport if there were not misinformation. I think we might have to watch that tomorrow. It's going to get techie. I don't know whether to stream it, chat. or maybe just the watch it. Cantera, you're a legend. Or Santero, excuse me. Imagine being Matt's instructor. Please, sir, not so fast. I just work here. Can you? It's a nonsense. It is absolute nonsense. Even as I'm reading that, it makes no sense. Suffice to say, though, it sounds like his Porsche won't be detuned. It will just be in a separate series. That sounds pretty legit. It does sound pretty legit, doesn't it? Too much. Full of details. So usurp the motorsport, overtype the Motorsport magazine article with that. The guys and girls over at Reddit, you can see B sign on his car. There are other B cars. So I mean, it's a special type of B car. Equal machinery is all that Max needs to win constantly. It's going to be techie. Can you imagine if it goes and wins both classes, wins both Saturday and Sunday? Oh, the humanity. I don't know whether to. I don't know, Neil. I'm debating with myself. Max's GOAT settings. I don't think so. Michael Jones is okay. Blocking again. Clowns. No fit. Oh. Go on then, let me tell you something else. It's a really good article on Motorsport magazine. And again, all publications are created equally, but some are created more equal than others if we're talking integrity and truth and objectivity. This time, Mark Hughes writes about Charles Leclerc, the potentially 7th season of Charles Leclerc at Scuderia Ferrari, and potentially this might be one of his last. Why? Well, because he's one of the quickest on the grid, right? Point A to point B, the quickest, potentially some say. So why then would he give additional years of his prime to this failing operation? Ineptitude Central, Scuderia, the red car with a yellow badge and the black prancing Corsa top. They fail in perpetuity all the bloody time. They had the quickest car at the end of last year, lest we forget. Finished 14 points adrift of McLaren in the constructors. Continuously improve for it then. Tinker, you were right there, Ferrari. You were quicker than McLaren. They kicked on and designed themselves a god tier MCL 39. And what did you do, Ferrari? You invested in marketing PLC. Sir Lewis Hamilton, the red car with the yellow badge and the black prancing Corsa. Luca Montezemolo is telling you that this is nonsense. That Ferrari have lacked substantial leadership skills or leadership since he can remember over the... It's not just the past couple of years. It's the past 5 or 6 or 7. This is nonsense. They redesigned the car. 90% of the bits are brand new when you had the quickest car at the end of last year. What? This is low-level nonsense, eh? Like, this is not solving for Fermat's last theorem. This is basics, and I think Charles Leclerc would have every right to seek pastures anew. There will be a magic roundabout as far as drivers in 2027, especially when they see the pecking order in 2026. The likes of Max Verstappen will have his pick of the litter, go to wherever he wants to, the quickest team on the grid. But shortly thereafter, it will be Charles and it will be King George Russell. Why would they want to stay at failing teams? Why? And wash away, do a Fernando upon Alonso, wish away their prime years at the altar of bad decision making. Why would they do that? This is nonsense. These guys just want to win ultimately. Now, I've heard Charles Leclerc say he doesn't just want to win, he wants to win at Ferrari. But how long can you continue barking up that tree? Sounds nice on paper, chap. But in 10 years' time, when you're over the hill, do you know what I mean? And you're looking back on your F1 career and you will have won nothing. You were deemed modern day Jean Lazy, the story of unfulfilled potential. Nobody wants that for sure. He's too nice a guy. Do you know what I mean? Too well intended. So I think that dude needs to leave. I think he needs to leave. I think the answer writes itself. What's he going to do at this point? Leave and go somewhere else. Sometimes you got to roll the dice. You would argue, you could forgive someone for arguing that at this juncture in Charles Leclerc's career, there is more risk from staying at Scuderia Ferrari than there is leaving, especially if a seat were to turn up at, I don't know, Oracle Red Bull Racing or Mercedes AMG Petronas. Of course he'd have to leave. Of course he would. Supposing Max goes to Aston Martin and then there's a nice big Kimi Antonelli sized whole seat at Mercedes. You think Charles Leclerc won't, and his team won't be desperate to get? Of course he would. It would be disingenuous of his team not to, is the issue. And so I think they, and as well, look over there at Sir Lewis. It's not like Lewis is going gangbusters. Do you know what I mean? What are they going to do? What are they? In whose image are they going to build the SF26 for? It's techie, really, really techie. I wanted it many times. I don't like that. But imagine Pokonovich, imagine that they were loving him. Listen, I went back and watched that. And another thing, actually, since we're talking about Tifosi and Ferrari and the umbrella heading, Chris Harris said the following. I thought it was interesting when they asked Sir Lewis, was he going to get up on the podium and celebrate with the Tifosi? And Lewis very politely declined. He said, you know what? Nah. If I deserved the podium, if I finished in the top 3, then I would do it. I didn't finish in the top 3, so I'm not going on the podium. Bravo, Sir Lewis. Man of the people, man of ethics and sport etiquette. I don't hate that. So why then would the Sky Sports F1 broadcast team, including Pinks and bloody Nico Rosberg, stood up there bloody playing orchestra? Do you know what I mean? Composer to the Tifosi. Chris Harris rightly points out on the Chris Harris on Cars podcast, link in the description, that this is hallowed territory. You've got to earn that. You can't just be a broadcaster. Now, Nico Rosberg is a one-time champion 2016, and it's his name that they were chanting. It wasn't Jamie Chadwick's or Natalie Pink. Of course it wasn't. But yeah, and still, the fact that Lewis is like, no, I don't want to go up on the podium if I'm not in the top 3. But Nico's up there conducting and doing the orchestra thing. Yeah, it was fun and games, but surely, per Chris Harris, that's hallowed territory. You should only be on the podium if you've won a race or come second or third, surely. If you didn't podium, get yourself off the podium. Therefore, easy G, that was class for me. It was class, wasn't it? Made me fall in love with Sir Lewis all over again. Pause. Johnny's not reading your messages because you're typing all the time. John K, mate, I'll try and pick up the messages, but sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of people in the chat. Do you know what I mean? And we're going back and forth here over the next 10 minutes. Sometimes I won't pick up the message. I had to get a blue Ferrari, or if you wanted to, John K. I mean, listen, super chats are a blessing, and I'm grateful at it for night and for each and every single one of them. But when you drop a super chat, it comes up in nice, bright, sexy colours. For what it's worth, John. Macon, I had to get a blue Ferrari shirt to remind me of it. So Macon, you make a point. I did like seeing Sir Lewis in the blue Ferrari shirt, but I don't want to be there too Debbie Downer and get too negative on the Sir Lewis thing. It's Friday. It's the Friday night show, yeah. However, I do feel in my heart, even when I'm searching for images for Lewis Hamilton thumbnails, increasingly I'm being drawn to the ones of Sir Lewis in the black overalls or the silver overalls of McLaren, because that's Lewis synonymous with Vic. That's how I want to remember Sir Lewis. Now, I'm not saying that he's eroding nor erasing, damaging his legacy at the moment. Not yet, but he will be soon. Father Time is undefeated, undisputed. You know what I mean? It's a matter of when, not if at this point. I'll never forget Matt Bishop, friend of the channel, talking about Ayrton Senna, that seeing him in the Rotherham Racing, the Rotherham Williams Racing overalls, just wasn't Ayrton Senna. It's not how you want to remember him. You want to remember him in the McLaren car, don't you? And I feel like the same is happening around Lewis at the moment. I don't even want to look at the pictures of Lewis in Ferrari, because at the moment, those are synonymous with failure until he rewrites and recalibrates that narrative. Would love to see Charlene Green driving Adrian Newey's Skunkworks project in 2. Can you imagine? OG Zilla, far too kind as always. Can you imagine Charles Leclerc in Aston Martin? Bloody Nora. I don't know if would they do that though? Would Charles go across to Aston Martin? Here's the problem. I think Aston Martin, Adrian Newey will do something in 2027, but 2026, I think it might be a bit too early even for Adrian Newey. But someone once said that if there were a guarantee of success, if that such a thing existed as far as engineers and aerodynamicists in Formula One, then that would have a name, and his name would be Adrian Newey. What is it? 13 constructors and 12 drivers championships over the course of his career. I mean, he doesn't bat 1,000, but he goes close. Definitely passes the Mendoza line. OG Zilla, too kind as always. Wildcard settings, GJ. Seeing Charles win a championship with Ferrari would be peak F1. What is peak F1, GJ? What is peak F1? I would argue that 2021, like in permit me some recency bias, ever so slightly. But I would argue that 2021 was potentially peak F1 in modern day times. 2012 didn't go too far. You know what I mean? And 2008 wasn't too bad either. 2007 was God tier also. But 2021, oh, the humanity. Aston is run with nepotism. It is a bit. It is a bit. So you're alluding to Lance. I don't know what's going on with Lance. I think he's just going to be there. As long as his dad's there, he's going to be there. But something's going on at Aston. You guys have heard us talk about this before, the restructure, and Lance is selling shares and taking things private, and something's going on that Mercedes, the minority shareholders of Aston Martin, Lagonda, the car manufacturer, as versus the F1 team, that the Mercedes shareholders were in there and are talking about potentially a takeover of Aston Martin, Lagonda. But now, what does that mean for the F1 team? They are, of course, separate entities, but you'd be forgiven for thinking that something's happening. I don't know. I'm not in the know enough to understand what's going on at Aston Martin, but there's too much movement, too much shareholder conversations for us to dismiss a potential acquisition of Aston Martin Lagonda. But remember, Lagonda is the car manufacturer, nothing to do as far as an entity with the F1 team. But something's going on there. Something for sure is going on there. And bloody Lance Stroll's like, he's leveraged up to the hilt, isn't he? Borrowed all the money that God can spare. It like it's chaos how much money he's leveraged. I'm telling you, something's going to happen. Safak said maybe next season, Ferrari has a decent car. But Safak, I'm done with I mean, even a broken clock will get it right twice a day. But if past his prologue, would you expect Ferrari to go and build themselves a car in a brand new rule and reg set? Potentially, but I just don't think it's the most likely outcome. Safak, I wouldn't bet on it to save a dying puppy. It sounds and looks and feels like Mercedes have the whip hand for 2026. That bloody sustainable fuel from Petronas, meant to be the god-tieriest one. The power unit, James Allison saying that it feels like a lot like 2014 turbo. I mean, all the sounds... You won't know categorically until testing in 2026. But if you're going to invest in conjecture and speculation, then it sounds like Mercedes potentially have the whip hand. Has to play Oracle. Oh my gosh, did you see Oracle's share price, Cody? Has to play Oracle and almost predict who's going to be ahead. I know, Cody. I mean, it's we are guessing. We're talking F1, but I find the predictions extrapolating out a forward forecast is probably the most interesting bit of it to me. Anybody can be a Monday morning quarterback after the fact. I feel like that's the problem with the space. Per Maximilian Verstappen, 2016, 2021, your boy, not to do a victory parade, but I remember arguing with my friend Justin about 2021 when I saw Max Verstappen pull out a lead, not in Silverstone proper, but a Silverstone sprint race. I was like, nobody beats Sir Lewis Hamilton in Silverstone. No one. And Max Verstappen did that then. And then you get Cota when he was on older tyres and managed to fend off a fire-breathing dragon in his pump called Sir Lewis Hamilton. Mate, sometimes you gotta... I'll say this, all of the podcasters and YouTube channels that I watch them for their insight. Do you know what I mean? There's something that I'm looking to get out of them that I wouldn't know already. And I can't be dealing with people that are just... and this isn't me. I'm not pointing my lens at anybody in particular. But I just can't. Well, let's talk about Sky Sports F1. I remember Paul di Resta commentating the Paul Ricard Grand Prix. I want to say 2022, where Charles Leclerc yeeted it into the barrier. And Paul Ricard and Paul di Resta spent 20 laps saying that Charles Leclerc's tyres look like they're going off. He needs to manage that, lest he want to yeet it into the barrier. Oh, the humanity. Next lap, yeets it into the barrier. I didn't see that. God tier levels of insight from Paul di Resta. So I want to watch. I want to be the F1 content creator that I would like to watch. We're talking about things that may or may not happen in the future. That for me is the most interesting. But anybody can sit here and pretend like there's some bloody god tier like F1 insight bud, an in the know guy, and then when it happens say, oh yeah, no, that's brilliant. That is, well, what? How did you know it was going to happen or wasn't going to happen? Maybe you didn't know, and then maybe I shouldn't be watching you. Making I believe Lawrence is going to sell to a Middle Eastern company. F1 will follow eventually. I mean, there's a lot of... have you guys seen the McLaren thing? Did we talk about the McLaren thing, didn't we? 4 billion valuation. 28% stake, minority shareholder. It's techie. We'll talk about it. Has to play the Oracle, blah, blah, blah. I loved every minute. Easy G. What's Easy G talking about? Hopefully Blando retires soon. People are a bit harsh to Blando sometimes, aren't they? He's there's a growing... I was listening to Benson on the Checkered Flag podcast actually. We'll talk about this tomorrow morning. I'll get the clips ready. And Andrew Benson was saying you could be forgiven for thinking that McLaren are favouring, especially as an Oscar Jack Piastri fan. You'd be forgiven for thinking that McLaren, Zach Brown and Andrea Stella are now favouring Lando Norris for a couple of different reasons. The British Grand Prix, to a man and woman, everybody said that that penalty was harsh on OJP, so why not invert for that? You're going to intervene for what happened to Lando with the bloody 5.9 second pit stop, then intervene for Oscar, surely. Like, what do we like? More consistently inconsistent than the FIA, and therein lies the problem. And then when you learn that Lando Norris was struggling early doors this season with the understeery nature of the MCL 39, as they're tacked on bloody suspension geometry setup to fix that for him, when you learn that Lando Norris was struggling because he wasn't getting the feedback through the steering wheel that it requires to be a god tier Formula 1 driver, and they fixed that for him, when you realise that OJP wasn't on that, said, you know what, that's not an upgrade, those are stabilisers, I don't want that on my car. When you realise all these things and then overlay that with the British Grand Prix, and then what they did at the Italian Grand Prix, it's like, even Benson's like, you know what, if I was an Oscar fan, I wouldn't be too pleased at what's going on here. How is the pit stop not just racing? You heard Oscar. Oscar's the most amenable bod. When he pushes back, you know that there's something wrong. When he pushes back over the radio in the car in real time, it's like, well, maybe this is a nothing burger. Maybe it's me wearing a tinfoil hat and being a conspiracy theorist, or maybe it's something. Okay, I think Lewis is correct and planning on putting there soon, using it as motivation for himself. Good on you, Lewis Hamilton. Perhaps Sebastian Cam, even though he doesn't win anything from now on, he already has 7 championships. Who else had that? Schumacher, nobody else. He can leave with his head held high. 100% Safak. I'm not saying... Far for it to be me to discredit Lewis Hamilton's accolades and achievements hitherto erstwhile. I mean, 7-time champions, you know what I mean? He'll be brilliant. But I think there's something, Safak. It's hard for sports stars and athletes to go out at the right time. Okay, in F1 too, boxing, it always, you guys know that I'm a fan of boxing. Boxers always get addicted to the spotlight. Always want one last ride, one last big fight. I mean, if you've watched Rocky films, you'll see it play out, right? It's the oldest truism in pugilism history. But I think the same can be said if we're parlaying and drawing parallels, causation dots. I think the same can be said of F1. How many drivers Sebastian went too late? You could argue that Fernando's probably going on too long. Who else recently just went on too long? David Coulthard probably won on a couple of years too long. I think I've heard him say so. I mean, it's hard to just time it perfectly. And I'm not saying that Lewis is going on too long. So long as he's enjoying his racing. Who am I to tell Lewis to pack it in? All I'm saying is this, as a Sir Lewis Hamilton fan, as a dude who's started his career long before he even got into F1, who had hopes that there would be a person of colour driving a Formula 1 car in Sir Lewis Hamilton that looked like me, that would a paradigm shift of an occurrence. Do you know what I mean? He loved that dude when he came in. He was faster than fastest. It just rapid. Like, you couldn't even beat. He's incredible. So against that context, I just want Lewis to go out of the way. I don't want for people to talk about his times in the red overalls with the yellow badge and black pants in corset top. Like it's you don't know, like his career would read better, but for his time at Ferrari, I don't want that. Maybe that's what it is, especially Tyson Maker, especially most of them stay too long and get beaten and get punched up. Muhammad Ali stayed too long. The Larry Holmes, but I think a lot of F1 drivers do the same. Sebastian Vettel. Nobody's not going to tell me that Sebastian Vettel shouldn't have retired about 2 or 3 years before he did. You know what I mean? They all tend to hang around maybe 2 or 3 years on average too far. 2021 defo did something to him deep down there. Much I concur. So maybe Lewis will never be the same again. Emotional damage, not anger. No, Fernando's longevity is great. I think Lewis still has it. He just needs to free his mind again. Now, Techie, Nico Rosberg 8, right, Z. One of the rare few, the exception that proves the rule is Nico Rosberg. Left at exactly the right time. Put all of his eggs, commitment and other into the 2016 basket. Won that one. He would never beat Lewis Hamilton again. He knew he would never beat Lewis Hamilton before the 2016, and he was never ever going to beat him again. Luck, is where opportunity meets preparation. And that was 2016 for Nico. He did everything he could, and only just then he managed to get it over the line because of Lewis's, not in small part because of Lewis's reliability issues, because they stopped tightening the nuts and bolts on Sir Lewis's car. Michael Jordan. Did he, OG Zilla? Coming back. Washington Wizards. I don't know. It should not matter the skin colour of somebody is. I love Max. He's in it shouldn't matter, Daniel. Let me go on. Let's talk about this for a second, Daniel. I know people hate. I mean, it's probably not the right time, is it, Daniel? Given that events of the past 48 hours, the affirmative action thing is a bit techie. But listen, what I will say is this, Daniel. I think if you're going to grow, God, I'll talk about boxing. I won't talk about F1 in these terms because it's too controversial. It's probably still too close. It's too soon. As far as boxing, Daniel, I'm going to flip the script on you here, Daniel. This is going to get techie. Look, as far as heavyweight boxers, for the most part, not so much anymore in 2025, but they've always been people of colour. Black men, since Jack Johnson, the heavyweight champion of the world, for the most part, barring, I don't know, Rocky Graziano, they've always been black men. And so there was this thing about the Great White Hope, the bloody terminology that Blundell used. You want to feel represented, right? If you're not represented, then you're less incentivized to watch. So I think there's something to be said. Still in F1 in 2025. Like that, where's the representation? Where's the South Asia? I agree with you, Mike. There, I think Crawford is gonna deal with Canelo. I think he'll make it look easier than most people think. So like, where's the South Asian driver? North Asian, obviously Yuki Tsunoda. South Asian was Carter Kayan and I mean, there's been a couple, but where is the South Asian representation today? Australasian. Okay, so you've got OJP, but who was there before OJ? So if you're conducting, Daniel, a global championship, then I think it's quite important that people all around the world see themselves represented in Formula One now. So like, where's the African representation in Formula One? Where's the North American representation now? What, Stroll? Not really. Where's the USA where is the driver from the United States of America? Where? Why isn't there what you're looking? You're telling me you're looking to grow into North America. So you're looking to grow into the United States as a growth market, and yet there's no driver in F1 from there. What are we doing here? It's not, honestly, it's nonsense. So Daniel, that's what I mean. You want to see, like, the best way I can put it to you, Daniel, when Max goes back to Sandville, or when Lewis and Nando and George, when they go back to Silverstone, there's something that you can't, it's lightning in a bottle. There's something that you can't manufacture there when a superstar goes home. We're unboxing now on this channel. The best of it, Z, it's techie. It is techie. We could talk for long. Thailand is South Africa. True, very true. That's a good point. I missed Albon, but I mean, he's Anglo-Thai, isn't he? Like, where's the I don't know. Stargy, guys, you guys have been legends as we round third base. Call up Sonny Hayes, BAB. I know, but can you imagine if there was a god tier? I mean, that's what Logan was supposed to be, right? Logan Sargent, but he wasn't good enough. Imagine if there was like a proper, I don't know, hopefully there'll be one soon. You know what I mean, Daniel? You know what I mean? And race, I think, as well. Nationality and race. You want to see everybody represented, because otherwise there'll be, I don't know. I don't know, Daniel, it's too techie. As you round third base, nationality and race, you want to see everybody represented to a certain extent. Otherwise, you're doing one of this us and them thing that F1's done so brilliantly, historically. It's fascinating how people of colour always see colour. Real Shumper. We'll talk about this another day, Real Shumper. This is my my PhD subject. Real Shumper. So it's not the same today in 2025. I don't want to get too techie. It's Friday night show, but I will say, go on. I'll tell you this, Real Shumper. As a child, and we're rounding third base. It's like I want to talk F1. I don't want to talk about this, but you guys keep poking me. Real Shumper, to that point, it's fascinating how people of colour always see colour. Real Shumper, if go on, and I'll tell you a story. As a person who went to an all Caucasian school from the age of 5 to 11, I couldn't tell you how damaging that was for me. It's important, therefore, that you see in the things that you love yourself represented. Otherwise, it damages you internally. I'm testament to that. I could speak at Real Shop. I'm not going to get too techie, but I could speak to that properly. And the same in boxing, but flip reverse. If all of the heavyweight boxers, the champions, are all black, like, why would white people want to watch? It's like, well, I don't think I'm saying anything controversial here, but you know what? As we round third base, you guys have been legends. Real Shop, stop dragging me. Just when I thought I was out, they dragged me back in, staying too long. 100%, Lindsay. It is now getting very tech easy. Crawford is no joke. If I were a betting man, that's where my money would go. You guys have been legends. Same time, same place tomorrow at 8 p.m, 10 a.m. British summertime. He's talking from a place of ignorance. T8365. Go on, mate. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about this tomorrow. Easy for him to say. Oh, I had T8365. I see you. See your point. It's a conversation. I'm telling you, we'll keep having it because again, it's probably one of my after F1, it's probably the subject that those are probably the murky waters in which I've swam most frequently over the course of my years on this earth. You guys have been legends. Nomed, you're a legend. Nando, Lazy, Umach as always. John, Safak, enjoy the racing tomorrow. Safak, and I want proper reports. Maybe we stream, maybe we don't. If not, 10 a.m. tomorrow, 8 p.m. tomorrow. You guys are legends each and every single time. Maximilian Verstappen first on Saturday, first on Sunday. Nordschleif's best, in addition to F1's best as at the time of writing. Between now and next time, the prosecution rests no further questions. Your Honour.